Hey everyone, good to see everyone here. So this morning, Andrea has put together a presentation on gamification, which she was really keen to present to the rest of the group, which is great. Apart from that, I thought I'd just go over what is assignment 2, what do you need to do, quick run over that, and then it's just really, where are people at, what do people want to talk about, if anything, just a bit of a catch up really, see how people are going, any burning questions or discussions that people would like to have, and perhaps the last thing is that this morning one of the people I know around pedagogy in the UK, Fred Garnett, who's worked quite closely with Stuart Hayes in the past, has just published a new book on, I guess, how to use pedagogy to potentially transform higher education institutions. So it could be an interesting read if you're interested in looking at that and exploring more around pedagogy, and I tweeted a few links around that earlier this morning. So if you are keen to follow through on the idea of pedagogy a bit more, then check out Fred's latest book he's just published the link to. He's published some links to some slides based on it, the questions that the book asks. I think that might be interesting if you want to follow that trail of where might pedagogy lead. So that's kind of the plan. Any questions? Anyone want to, put something on the table that we should discuss?
Yeah, I had one question. I just remembered what my one question for you was, and it is this: that with all these presentations that we're making, and we put links and slides and things like that, where do they go when the subject is finished? Because in the olden days, we would sort of download the PDFs and PowerPoints or whatever, and that would be it. Maybe download a video. But does the subject, if the subject sort of disappears, then the links to a lot of the material that we've been sourcing will disappear as well. So is that a problem that you've talked about before?
I guess it's kind of, it's the first time I've run the course. So in a way, we're sort of working it out as we go. But my hope would be that those would become resources for the next group, that they would, live on, that the links would still be live. And I guess that's partly the reason why all your presentation links live outside of Canvas, and we've basically just sort of curated them into the course in Canvas via the table that we had. They're still there.
So we need some way of salvaging like what's in the Canvas. I mean, because if the subject disappears, so we need to sort of have a snapshot of the subject or an archive or something.
Yeah. So my suggestion would be, use your blog to archive the stuff that you really want to, the stuff you want to interested in, curate it there. Use the Flipboard magazine, or create your own Flipboard magazine from that.
Okay.
Use the Mendeley library, etc. So all the sort of tools that we've been exploring, I think, make useful curation tools for beyond the course. And I guess that's really what I'm hoping as well, that what we've established is hopefully a community of inquiry, community of practice that lives beyond the course, for anyone who's actually interested and wants to. And it could lead into collaborative projects and design beyond the course, but that's a wider discussion for later. Okay, but certainly, I guess I see everything that you people have done is excellent resources for the next group. So unless anyone would prefer that it wasn't, so I guess that's a conversation to have later on anyway. But yes, good question. My hope is that it lives on and goes beyond this as a formal course as such. Okay, so let's segue into Andrea and her presentation on gamification. I'll just make you co-host, Andrea, and then I'll hand over to you. So Andrea looked at gamification, and she wasn't available when we were doing the presentations, and she was keen to do a presentation to the class.
Okay, I made a video for this presentation to save time if we get audio problem or switch among different media.
Okay, so you should be able to screen share now, Andrea.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to discuss with you the idea of is that okay?
Yep, that sounds okay.
Gamified classroom, or more broadly, digital game-based learning. Why game? The first benefit is, of course, student attention and engagement. It is not by commanding or demanding their attention, but by attracting them with fun. Second, it can embed the knowledge in the real-world context, but with minimal risk. Failure is not the end. The game can give another chance to try out. As the expert knowledge is built into the game, students and teachers are on the same boat. To gamify the classroom means to create a self-motivated learning journey for students. It has 4 key elements. First, avatar, which is the representatives of the user, a player to venture into a virtual world that simulates the real world. The second element is quests and challenges. It is the trigger of the adventure. Students should develop critical thinking skills through the challenge. The third element of gamified classroom is badges, which is the indicator of earned accomplishment. These are the values behind your game design, what will be credited in the game. The fourth element is points and levels. These are the reward system on how you reward the credit. So here we have some detailed steps of developing a game for education. They are in general 3 types of activities: select tools, set challenges, and design the game rules. The game rules are points, choices, modding. Modding means that you allow students to modify some of the game rules. And collaboration, opt-in. And this means that you provide a leaderboard so that players can see the whole map if they want and can opt in on their own choice. This is an element for pedagogy. Surprise rewards, failure. If the result is a failure, you provide a way out, another option. And reward mastery, this is the options to grant promotion as part of the reward system. This video gives us 10 examples of education games.
Playing video games to finish your homework. But what if your homework was playing video games, dude? Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 video games they should let you play in school. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we're looking at games that aren't typically considered educational, but are well-made products that, either through innovative gameplay or interesting narratives, have something that everyone can learn from. These are games that belong in the classroom just as much as any classic novel or film.
Lives shattered. Love lost.
Number 10, The Witness. if you've ever needed a true test of your puzzle solving and deductive reasoning skills, your best bet is to end up on a mysterious uninhabited island filled with lying mazes and try to figure out what the heck is going on. That's basically The Witness in a nutshell, a puzzle adventure game boasting over 600 brain-busting puzzles. It's a game that turns learning itself into a major focal point, requiring the player to revisit puzzles once they've learned enough to figure them out. It's beautiful, brainy, and big, so you can get lost in it for hours. Number 9, Spore. Video games can often come pretty close to letting you play God, but Spore kicks it up a notch. From the creators of The Sims, Spore is a game that gives you control over life itself, from conception to evolution to death. It's a crash course in biology, tasking the player with creating bizarre living organisms and helping them along with their evolution, taking them from itty-bitty microscopic creatures to space-faring intelligent beings with hundreds of eyeballs and feet for hands, if you so choose. It's a game that requires creativity, strategy, and a healthy interest in science, plus it's a whole lot of fun. Number 8, Never Alone.
Ano ko nagpaisili, sunira na chokonni. Dabra ni biak siya karewalo, ayung itchak.
Known as Kisima Initchuna in the language of the Inuit people, Never Alone combines classic 2D platforming with beautiful indigenous folklore, presenting gamers with a familiar gameplay experience against a new, refreshing backdrop that highlights a culture so rarely explored in mainstream fiction. Aside from the enchanting storyline, it includes a number of documentary-like videos featuring cultural insights into the lives of the Inupiaq people, making it a rich learning experience that just so happens to play like Super Mario. Plus, you get an adorable Arctic fox as a companion. Win-win. Number 7, Simcity series. What better class project is there than to entrust your students with the fate of a city and then ask them to keep it from falling into economic ruin? Thankfully, Maxis's hit simulation series lets you do just that without causing any actual harm to actual cities. SimCity set the standard for simulation games in the 90s, and even today it's a fun and powerful tool for teaching lessons in city planning, urban development, and resource management. It'll also probably teach you how to keep her safe during an alien invasion, so you got all your bases covered, really. Number 6, Papers, Please. Gamers love to talk about games that offer choices that actually matter, air quotes. Well, there's no better game to explore that concept than Papers, Please, a game that puts you in the tough position of being an immigration inspector who has to make tough ethical decisions regarding the families whose lives are put in your hands. Besides teaching some hard lessons in ethics, it's perhaps best at instilling a sense of empathy in the player. Papers, Please is politically relevant, ethically intriguing, and will stay with you for a long time to come. Number 5, That Dragon Cancer.
Hey, it's you again. I love you, my friend.
There are some lessons that just aren't part of one's everyday curriculum. Learning to navigate grief in the wake of a tragedy is an incredibly valuable life lesson, and one that's pretty hard to impart. And that's where video games come in, actually. That Dragon Cancer is an immersive exploration and adventure game that puts the player through some of the emotional highs and lows that come from losing a loved one to cancer. It's emotional, poignant, beautiful, and does exactly what a good piece of literature in the classroom should do. It expands the reader's worldview and teaches them to empathize with the darkest of tragedies.
The big is me. The big ones is for me, and the little ones is for my dog.
Number 4, The Stanley Parable.
What a gorgeous, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
The Stanley Parable is a unique game, and it's so novel that it's already no stranger to classrooms, actually. The titular Stanley gets up from his desk one day to find that his office building has been abandoned, and the player's only companion is a narrator whose trustworthiness is questionable at best.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
You're able to either follow the narrator's instructions or act on your own choices, as the game and its many endings explore questions of free will and agency. Plus, it does a fantastic job of questioning the role that a narrator plays in the story.
No, wait. Where are you going?
Number 3, Minecraft. It's less of a game and more of a phenomenon at this point. The open sandbox world of Minecraft is so open that it can be used for just about anything, from building sprawling cities to crafting elaborate battle arenas. In a game that essentially gives you unlimited virtual Lego pieces to play and build with, it's no surprise that this game is a huge hit in classrooms. Learning to build with your fellow classmates is a great experience in collaboration, and building some of the crazier things in the game can help you teach the basics of engineering. And by the way, it's a whole lot of fun too. Number 2, Valiant Hearts: The Great War.
A soldier sent far from home and torn from their loved ones.
Game writers could spend hours coming up with intricate plots for our video games, but sometimes the best stories are ripped straight from the history books. Valiant Hearts was inspired by letters written during the First World War and takes that inspiration and turns it into a beautiful puzzle adventure game that explores the terrors of war. It's dramatic and emotional, but it's also well researched and accessible, which makes it a perfect example of a game that is as fun as it is impactful. Valiant Hearts is a narrative gem that would make a great addition to any history lesson.
Of sacrificing everything, even their own life.
Number 1, Civilization series.
Libraries, universities, and research labs on your campuses will further increase their science output and allow you to assign your population to that tile.
Sure, SimCity gave you a taste of the power that comes with ruling over a city, but how would you like to seize control over an entire empire? Sid Meier's Civilization is, in many ways, the perfect video game for the classroom. The gist of the series is that you take control of a small, basic settlement and, over the course of centuries, turn it into a thriving civilization to tower over all others. It's a great learning tool when it comes to teaching how societies are built and what makes them thrive, and it's got roots in real-world history to boot. Whether expanding, exploring, exploiting, or exterminating, players have to use their brains to strategize appropriately and make sure their civilization comes out on top. And all of that puts Civilization at the top of our list. Well, teachers, what are you waiting for?
We rise to the challenge and become something greater than ourselves.
Do you agree with our pick?
Now we have some syllabus examples by University of Michigan. If you explore their website, you'll find many of these examples. Let's have a look at a couple of them. This is a linguistic subject, language and discrimination. Here is fully gamified syllabus. A point scheme. And this is an astronomy subject, aliens. This is a relatively simple conversion. It's simply converted marks into points, but it's a game. Next, we are going to discuss 3 theories and see how they can help gamified classroom: reflection in action, situated learning, and the modified community of inquiry framework. Reflection in Action by Donald Schromm, who suggests a good professional develops his or her expertise through reflective practice. The reflection is in the action of doing the job. It is not reflection on action, but the doing is thinking. The benefit of teaching through games is that the game provides a whole environment that gives students instant feedback on their actions, which facilitates reflection in action. So if we understand this mechanism, we can be clear on what to look for in designing the game for students and try to design the stimuli of reflection into the gaming process. situated learning developed by Leith and Wenger from observation of apprenticeship. They found that apprentices learn from each other more than from their own masters. So the real learning is from active engagement with a community of practice, and students learn through legitimate peripheral participation. So a novice starts from being involved in the peripheries of a community of practice. As they gain more proficiency that is valued by the community, they move towards its core. So what's its implication to gamified classroom? It means we can create layers and levels to simulate this movement in the community of practice as the player grows from a novice into an expert. Community of inquiry. If we remember, Garrison and his colleagues conceptualized the COI framework in these 3 dimensions: teaching presence, cognitive presence, and social presence. The overlaps of these dimensions make the content, the discourse, and the climate of that community. Now, if we apply the COI framework for understanding how a gamified classroom works, we shall turn to a modified version. So this is the modified COI framework, recommended to me by Sam in his comments to one of my posts in WordPress. Thank you, Sam. This modified COI framework by Xie and colleagues puts social presence to the background. Everything is social. So they replaced the social presence dimension with the learning presence dimension. In a digital game environment, the learning presence dimension becomes very necessary and prominent because it is pedagogy, self-determined learning. So if we make more specific for gamified classroom, we need to consciously design a gamified classroom into a social platform. Teaching and cognitive presences should work out the game design, where you'll work with the game developer to design the challenges and the rules to make students learn what they are expected to learn. The cognitive and the learning presences jointly define an area of mindful participation from the student's side. The learning presence and the teaching presence come together to define a feedback loop. The feedback is mutual. The teacher gives students timely feedback on their gaming outcomes. Students give feedback to the teachers about their gaming experience so that the teacher can update the game or revise the game rules. These are some paradoxes to keep in mind if you are to use the gamification approach. First, it generates big data. The advantage is that you are well informed of the learning process and results. The challenge is how to make sense of the huge amount of data in a timely manner. The workload is huge. Second, the game provides anonymity. This can be good in that it eliminates bias and subjectivity in your marking. The challenge is that you might miss important personal information that could help you make a fairer judgment on the scoring result. The next 2 paradoxes are about students' engagement and motivation. Gamification helps enormously, of course, but engagement is mutual. Students' engagement is to be matched up by the teacher's time, attention, and response. Greater benefits come with greater challenge. How often can you afford to update your game to engage students' feedback? We know the cost of game redevelopment is not little. These are the challenges that we need to bear in mind when using the gamified classroom. Here's a list of references for your interest and further reading. Here I got 3 websites. If you're interested, you can explore. They are very resourceful. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Andrea.
Okay, thank you.
So let's throw it open to questions, comments from people. Lyle's done a thumbs up. A few claps, excellent.
More claps.
Here, I have a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm curious to see, because I saw that Tom posted a reference talking about higher education. Did you see many examples of use in higher education? Because it does look a little bit childlike, some of the games. So I was thinking how to make a twist of that for, you know, a more mature professional setting kind of.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Yeah, yeah. Any thoughts, Andrea? How do we implement gamification in HE and higher education?
I think the game design, that who you assume is a player, that's flexible. So I think we can we need, the challenge for us is to define really higher education games because the current one are really mostly for kids.
I think like in isn't it in business that they have like really good simulation like for markets? I think that's the only example that I know that comes to my mind.
Yeah, so I've seen several examples around effectively simulation environments. And I guess in a lot of ways it's very, very similar to a gamification sort of an approach. Maybe just, I guess when you're defining gamification as such, it sort of filters right through to the assessment design and how you're designing, you know, the marking and creating assessments that are much more around sort of collaborative gamification and competition. A lot of simulation environments don't do that, but they could be transferred into more of a mode like that. If you wanted to sort of, I guess, build that sort of element of competition and what motivates students is, you know, the whole idea of games is that you want to win, or you want to do well. You want to build up your credibility in that community, and that's why, you know, a big factor around why people get involved in games and get so embedded into it is the kudos they get from being, you know, a key person in that community. And so how can we transfer some of those principles into curriculum design and assessment design, I think can be quite interesting. So one of the links that I did put there was an example from the UK, Helen Keegan. Unfortunately, she hasn't really published formally a lot of the stuff that she did, but she basically created an alternative reality for her students. So her students were media design students, the University of Salford, and they moved their media campus to I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's like there used to be big dockyards in Salford, huge big dockyards where they built boats and stuff. But they repurposed all that area in the last sort of 20 years or so. And, you know, just like I guess, sites around the world that are no longer used for the original purpose, gets built into things like apartment buildings and office blocks, etc. And so they created this media hub where the Docklands used to be in Salford. And the BBC moved there. They moved their offices there. And the University of Salford moved their media department there as well. So they'd be right next to the BBC and sort of make that link for their students. And so they had, there's like a huge big outdoor video screen, which the BBC uses, and they promote, their programs and stuff on this huge big outdoor screen. And it's got like a park, and people can sit around and have their lunch and watch the latest trailers, etc. And so what Helen did was she turned her media design course into an alternative reality where the students started getting these emails and notes in the letterboxes from some random person that she'd worked with, obviously designed the whole thing, but they didn't know, with a whole bunch of sort of like breadcrumb clues, like, it was just like these short snippets that students initially they were quite freaked out by. It was kind of like, what's going on? We're getting some random stalker sending us notes. And then it took them a couple of weeks to work out that it was like a solution they had to try to work out. And so over a number of weeks, about 8 or 10 weeks, students had to try to work out what was going on from all these notes that they were getting given by this random anonymous person who was also following them all on Twitter and seeing the messages via Twitter. And Helen had sort of, teed all this up, obviously, and she was just sort of feigning that she didn't know what the heck was going on. So the end game was that these students had to, it was just a set of numbers, and they had to work out what was the relevance of it. And it ended up being, it was a date and a place, a geographic position, a longitude and latitude. And it just so happened it was in front of this big media screen at a certain date and time. And what Helen had organised was that all of their projects would be displayed on this huge big screen in public. Students are standing around because they'd kind of worked out the position of where it was and the date. They didn't know what was going to happen. And they suddenly see all their projects on the big screen being played. And it could have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, it's a high risk enterprise, isn't it? The cops would turn up and they'd be...
So, I mean, she talks about in her presentations how, it was obviously a big risk, and she was a bit aware that, halfway through some of the students were, sort of starting to think, well, should we call the cops because this person's stalking us? And but it ended up, the students really, really loved it, and she did it a couple of times. But yeah, so an example in HE there, and there's other examples as well. But yeah, it's a huge amount of design work, huge amount of planning, and I guess you've got to sort of see what are the benefits, and is it really going to increase the learning outcomes? What are you trying to achieve for your graduates, and what are the key capabilities you're trying to develop, and will this type of approach really work? So you can gamify and make it really explicit that it's game, or you can do it sort of slyly and create this sort of alternative reality like Helen did, and not tell your students. I guess it really comes down to the body of the group you're working with.
It just got me thinking, not such an extreme example as that one, but in MOOC that I've done research in the past, what they did it was a computing, like a optimization in programming, and they did a leaderboard. So it was whoever was able to do the best optimization would gain points to be on top of the leaderboard. And it was a very open curriculum, so it was you would sign up, all the lectures would be there, and all the material and all the assessment, and you just move however you wanted through the thing, and you would start to gain point, and that would be the way to sort of, you know, measure your progress with your colleagues. The thing that is that the gamification has to expand yourself to your own progress. I think that would be the where you get some more that would be, I don't know, a bit more effective towards learning than extrinsic, I would say, or maybe a combination of both. But for my impression is that there's a bit lacking whenever I've seen people talk about gamification, is that it's a lot of extrinsic motivation, and you get badges and points, and you compare to others, and not really, oh, okay, this has been my journey. What have I gained from before, or
I agree. I think there's a bit of a lack of exploring foundational learning theory and around the design of what you're trying to achieve with gamification. But I thought that was very nice that Andrea made the link to 3 learning theories or frameworks as part of a presentation. So I mean, you can build in little elements of gamification around that sort of competitive nature very easily, as you say, by assigning points to an activity. But are all students motivated by that or not? You know? And apart from building in some competition, is it really increasing the learning or not? So those are the sorts of questions I think you need to ask. But yeah, Jeanette, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just having a lot of trouble with my internet, so I'm dropping in and out a bit, but I don't even know what we're talking about at the minute.
Yeah, my internet's pretty bad today too. I don't know why it's dropping in and out. Maybe it is for everyone. Hey, well, thank you, Andrea. I think that's really interesting. Get people thinking. And I think, you know, if people are interested in the ideas of gamification, there is a reasonable body of literature out there that people can explore and you know, look at some design principles around as well.
Yeah, and also I suggest have a look of the website of University of Michigan. There's a whole lot of syllabus of these gamified modules. Some are just slightly gamified. It's not a computer game, a human game.
So it just reminds me of another example, an Australian one, from University of South Australia, Adelaide, where they've built an app, and it's sort of around geolocation, and students can create like virtual tours and effectively a game around discovery using their smartphones in various locations. So that's another interesting one. Okay, well, let's have a quick look at where we're heading with assignment 2. So I'll just go into screen sharing. Hopefully my connection can handle it because it's dropping pretty badly today. I might just turn my video off to help that. So hopefully you can see my screen. Is my screen coming through?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I seem to have a huge delay, but okay. So if we go into the Canvas course and assignments. And it obviously looks a little bit different to you because I'm in teacher mode, but under assignment 2. So you've got a couple of weeks to work on this. Effectively, assignment 2 is your draft proposal. It's a presentation around your proposal and defending your, I guess, the design of where you're wanting to head with your actual online course. So the handbook says that it should be about equivalent to 1,500 words. I've asked that you use Adobe Spark as a presentation tool to present your prototype proposal. Mainly just to get you sort of thinking beyond PowerPoint and have a bit of a different experience than using PowerPoint. The idea is that 10 minutes per person. We'll do it via Zoom, and you can obviously screen share, and we'll have a Google form for your feedback. So there's the form. I'll just make that slightly bigger. And you'll be able to choose, obviously, who the person is, the presenter that you're giving feedback to. So I've tidied up the form, so that should work better than our test form that we did for your presentations earlier. I did have a question from Katie about whether you could do collaborative presentations. So I'm happy for people to do that if you want to. You will get an individual mark for your designs, your presentations. But you know, if it works, if it was a collaboration where you're co-designing a course or a module, and you've got a couple of people in the same department, or whether it's a transdisciplinary team that's working on co-design, then I'd be happy with that. I would think it would probably actually be slightly more difficult to do that, but if you want to do a collaborative design, then that's fine. We will be doing assigning individual marks for it. So this is basically the design of your course. Here's the rubric for the marking. So you can see there's 5 main criteria. Identifying a design framework that you've chosen to guide your design. The outline of the types of activities and what you think the ecology of resources might be to support your design. So it doesn't have to be completely nailed down in this assignment 2. It's just sort of indicating where you're heading. What learning theory has informed your design, or you're hoping to leverage to inform your design? Who are the learners, and how does this meet their needs? And then finally, creating an actual interesting presentation. That includes multimedia and uses Adobe Spark. So questions on assignment 2?
This is probably a dumb question, but what does 1,500 word equivalent look like in Spark?
Well, Spark is I guess is very visual. So I would think on effectively what you would think is a slide on Spark, you'd be looking at per slide, you're probably looking at 20 to 50 words at the max. So I would think you'd be looking at 10 to 20 slides effectively, type of an outline. If you're embedding multimedia in there, of course, then that's obviously worth more than a sentence.
Perfect, thank you.
Paula.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, fine.
Are we expected to include things like learning outcomes and, or is it just those criteria?
No, it will be learning outcomes, but that's more on assignment 3 when you've got your, your wireframed outline of the actual course.
Right. So here,
so an assignment too would be kind of pointing towards where you're wanting to, it's the proposal. It's not the fully fledged design. The fully fledged design or prototype is assignment 3.
Right. And and you've mentioned that this can be a hypothetical, or like, let's say, a course that we would like to put together, not necessarily a course that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Thanks.
I guess ideally, if it's something you're actually working on, then that's probably your biggest bang for buck is, working on a course design that you're already working on, so that you actually get something out of doing this that you can actually implement. But if you're not currently, then yeah, it can be fully hypothetical, or this is a course I would really like to design.
All right.
Tom, if we're if it is like a course that we're working on or have worked on, we could embed like some screenshots and things in our presentation, I guess.
Yeah.
Or do you not want that kind of level of detail in the second assignment?
Probably not in the second one. In the third one, what I'm really after is an almost working prototype, and in that case, I'm not really interested in screenshots of something. I want to see what it would actually look like. So whether you're using Canvas, or if you decide you want to use WordPress to host the module or whatever, or even Spark, I really want to see kind of what you think it would look like, rather than just a static screen.
What I meant is for the Spark presentation in the second assignment to sort of articulate, or if it was helpful to sort of show a picture of what we were thinking in the second assignment, that could be embedded in the Spark.
Yep, definitely.
I think. And with the third assignment, I'm probably jumping the gun here, but if we are using Canvas, would we invite you then as a person in the subject so you can sort of have a look around in there to mark?
That would probably be useful. I hadn't really sort of... so I mean, everyone should have like a play pen in Canvas. If you wanted to knock up a course using Canvas that wasn't necessarily live, then you should be able to use that feature in Canvas. But I don't feel that you have to use Canvas.
Tom, with this assignment too, are we needing to put anything in there about how we plan to review the course, or is that for assignment 3? Just going back to the design-based research kind of model. The
evaluation. I think it would be useful to, definitely to think about. And when you're designing a course, usually you get some form of peer feedback from your colleagues, or it goes through a moderation process. How are you building that into the design of your course?
Great, thanks.
You may even want to think about ethics. If you're going down the line of, say, gamification, do you need to think about ethics for your students? That was perhaps one area that Helen, with her alternative reality game, it could have all come apart. Because students hadn't actually consented.
I never would have got through ethics.
No. So it's kind of like, well, you just do it and hope that nothing goes wrong. Any other questions?
Yeah, Tom, it's like, I guess my, looking at the criteria, I feel that the clarity on what's required increases as you go from 1 down to 5. I'm a bit fuzzy on the design framework and stuff, only because we've talked about design-based research or educational design, and And now we've got design and framework after the word learning. So the learning theory is sort of week 5. I think are pretty clear, but is there, I guess my question is, are these different words for the same things?
I guess I'm kind of looking at, as far as the idea of a design framework goes, we're looking at the types of things that were presented in week 6.
Yeah, okay. And
so you look at things like, you know, the conversational framework, you know, are you going to employ that, or is it going to help inform the design of part of your course, you know, rhizomatic learning type thing. So ideas that are kind of more practical and pragmatic on how to implement learning theory.
Yeah.
So we sort of looked at about 5 or 6 of those types of design frameworks.
Yeah, okay. And that's separate to the design-based research thing, the 4 stages that we've looked at?
Yeah, so design-based research is like an overarching methodology?
Yeah, so interesting. Yes, okay. Yeah,
so I guess, you know, people argue with a DBR as a methodology or an actual design framework, you know, and you can kind of debate that, but I see it as a valuable overall methodology.
Yeah, but for the purpose of assessment, we could do a lot worse than have a look at the learning theories and framework topics from 5 and 6 and try to sort of make a pitch to using one or more of those things, both the learning theory and a framework for actually
that's the place to start.
delivering or whatever, for actually offering it to the students. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
So it's probably a bit of a different approach to course design than perhaps you've done before, but hopefully it's got a bit more structure to it.
We better get cracking.
Yeah, you've got a couple of weeks to go.
The clock ticks.
Okay.
So we're presenting these in a class coming up. Is that the idea? Weeks 9 and 10?
Yeah, so Lyle did point out that it's going to be a squeeze to fit these into our regular, you know, hour and a half that we've been having. Because when I did initially do the sort of timetable, there was only 11 people actually enrolled, and so we've got 19 now. So what I have suggested is we have 2 sessions, and I was debating with myself, I guess, whether we'd spread that out over 2 days or just on one day. So I've gone for one day so that it's, you know, all in, get it over and done with, and hopefully then also people stick around and give feedback rather than do their presentation and then take off. Be nice to get as much sort of feedback from the entire community as we can. So I've suggested we have 2 sessions and have like an hour break between them, so you can grab some lunch, etc., grab a coffee, and we'll aim for 2 1.5-hour sessions on each of the days.
I'll have a teaching clash later in that day. I don't know if anyone else is in that position.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, me too. I'm teaching at noon. I don't know if we're going to use all the way to noon.
What's the date that we're looking at?
The 10th?
Yes, 10th of August, and then the 28th, which is a Friday, for assignment 3. So what we can do is we can put together I guess a table with times that people can stick their, you know, desired time into. I guess it would have to come down to pretty much first come, first served type of approach. But hopefully we can get as many people as possible to be there for all presentations to give feedback to people as they're presenting.
Tom, Did you mention a Friday?
Yes, so that's the assignment 3.
There's no presentation for that, is there?
Yes, yeah, presentation.
Oh, we're presenting that as well. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Why is
jump.
that going to be on a Friday, may I ask? Was not on a Monday, as usual.
Because that's what was in the...
Oh, okay. I thought it changed,
booklet,
but
basically. No, it hasn't changed. That's always been
all
the
right.
date. It just so happens it's a Friday.
All right.
So I've just gone into screen sharing into assignment 3, and there it is, August the 28th. Yeah.
So it's going to be the same throughout the day.
Yeah, so 2 sessions, normal time, except on a Friday, an hour in between, then a second. So I put that actually into the announcements. If you have a look at...
yeah, I saw that. Just didn't realize it was a Friday.
No, me either. Is there any way it can be Monday?
Yeah.
I'm negotiable. It's just, that's what was in the course booklet as such. I'm certainly happy to negotiate that. If the Monday, that would be what, the
31st.
31st.
Works for me.
Happy to go with with the most people that we can get.
I'm happy for Mondays too.
Yeah, that'd be great if it.
You should have a weekend to work on it.
Can do both.
Could we do?
Yeah, there is a school of thought that suggests it wrecks another weekend, but you can, as I say to the students, you could always do it by Friday. You don't. It never goes down.
Yeah. Well, I guess the only downside of having it on Monday is that you're probably going to spend your weekend working on it.
I'm happy for it to be the Monday before. It's just that I have childcare on Monday, but not on Fridays. Sometimes.
Could we do a session on a Monday and a session on a Friday so some of us may make it on Monday and we might not all be there on both sessions.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of that, but my only worry was that we'd, maybe only get 5 people or 2 people turn up to one of the sessions if they were split like that.
Actually, I just remember that I have childcare on Fridays, so I'm easy. Like, no, I work on Friday. Sorry. But I'm happy with whatever. Monday or Fridays are good for me. Sorry.
The comment you made earlier to Tom, I think that most people have sort of got Monday morning free, so you would at least have a pretty good showing. Because I agree, it'd be really great if you could have as many people as possible commenting on presentations. And so it's clear that some people won't be able to make a Monday afternoon, but at least if it was on both of them on Monday, then you get a bit of a crowd for the first session.
Yeah.
And then can I suggest maybe you need a grid to not only for when people are talking, but who can sort of be there to listen, just to make sure that that people. Well, I guess it just encourages people to clear a bit of space, even though it's unrealistic that everyone would be able to attend all sessions.
Yep, sure. Okay, well, I'm not quite sure exactly where we've ended up. Whether we're going to go with the Monday or the Friday for the final presentation.
Can't we use our little hands? Can't we just have a vote?
Yeah, let's do that. So who wants to go for the Monday? Do a little hands up thingy.
So, Tom, could you just repeat what time are we talking about on Monday?
Monday would be the normal 9:30 to, 11. I have to convert the time for New Zealand.
Oh, right.
And then a 12 to 1:30.
9:30 to 11, but then, yeah.
And this is on the 10th, or have
no,
we moved it?
that is on the 10th as well, but we're talking about the 28th at this point.
Okay, 28th.
So taking the 28th,
moving it to the 31st.
Okay, well, let's go for the Monday, because hopefully people have got Mondays in their schedule for working on this, and it seems like perhaps people didn't realise that the 28th was a Friday, so happy to move it to Monday the 31st. Okay, so I'll change the date and I'll put an announcement around that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, well, have a good rest of the week. There's been some good blog posts, some good comments. There's a couple of people perhaps left to still do their blog posts, but get those in as soon as you can, and keep on, commenting on people and giving feedback.
Before we finish, Tom, can I just check what week are we in, and what are we? I'm trying to just get my head around that missing week, and I'm just looking at the announcement.
Week 9, and the presentations of your proposals, the outline is week 11. I had it in week 10, but somehow I'd actually missed a week as far as the calendar goes.
And so next week, is it just we work on our assignment? Is that the plan, or are we having a
we'll have a discussion for anyone who wants to turn up and brainstorm, talk about ideas, etc. So we'll keep that there, keep that going. I'm quite happy to do that.
And with the focus being on the assignment.
Yeah.
For next, cool, for discussion. Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay, we'll see you all later.
See ya.
Thanks.
See everyone.
Bye.